Welcome to another edition of Florida Sportsman Action Spotter Podcast. My goodness, what a week it has been, unlike any other in our lifetime. There's no question about that. But one thing that it has given us is a lot of time. Now, there are some areas, like down in Miami, poor Captain Alan Sherman, his boat ramps are closed. We won't be talking with Alan tonight. There's literally no fishing available for those guys down there. But for the rest of us, we may not have as much money as we had, but we've had a lot of time, and there's been a lot of good fishing. And let's be thankful. Let's take just a minute and be thankful that it's April, okay? April's a better month than January. If I had to be unable to go anywhere, I'd much rather be locked down to fishing and staying in the woods and staying away from people in April than I would in January. So today I'm thankful that it's April and we're able to be outside. But we're going to take a trip around the state tonight, just like we do every week. We're going to check in with the best fishermen in each area and find out what went on this week. What's going on offshore, inshore, bait movements, you name it, we'll cover it. All right, we're going to start our report tonight with a little fantasy trip. Let me tell you what, when you're ready for the vacation of a lifetime, you are ready to go to Nosara, Costa Rica, and meet my buddy Craig Sutton. Craig, are you with us?
Yes, sir, Captain Ricky. Right here, buddy.
Oh, man, I'm glad to hear from you. Tell me how it's going in Nosara, Costa Rica.
Well, we kept the adventure in the water until a week ago Monday. On the weekend prior, though, we had a nice trip with Mark Cooney. Got 2 nice sailfish and a nice Dorado and a couple small yellowfin.
That's a fine day. Craig, you talk about sailfish, and I always get tickled at you because you don't care anything about sailfish down here. While I love our Florida sailfish, your fish are a lot bigger over there, aren't they?
Oh, way bigger. For us, a 100-pounder is about average, 150, not that big. But we get a lot of them close, 150 up, Ricky.
Golly, that is a great fish. There's no question about that. Now, things are kind of shut down for you like they are for all of us, obviously, as we go through this thing, which I'm praying is coming to a rapid end. When it comes back, when you start fishing again in May, what kind of time of year is that for you?
It's the best time of year for our fishing. Everybody thinks Central America is January, February, March, and it's good then. But it gets way better at the end of May all the way through August. We're the only area of Costa Rica only has 2 months of rain. Our rain comes September and October, our hard rain. We get the evening showers May through August and then a little bit in the early part of November. But the fish get so much more aggressive. They get wadded up tighter, and they're much bigger. Last year, between the end of May and August, we caught over 4 yellowfin over 74 inches, and we got the pictures to prove it.
What's the weight of a 74-inch yellowfin, you think?
About 250 and maybe a little bigger. That's a big fish. We lost probably 10 or 12 more that we didn't capture. And then at that same time frame, I think we caught 5 or 6 Dorado over 45. And
wow.
that you look at the photos of them, they're definitely 45. We weigh them on a boca grip.
Oh, yeah, I've seen them.
A lot of companies would call them 60-pound fish, but they're really 40 to about 48, 49, 50 pounds.
Man. So the moral of the story is the guys need to get there as quick as they can once the all clear sign goes up, right?
Yeah, buddy, we can't wait. We've got all the boats out of the water now, and they're chomping at the bit, man. We're doing all our maintenance, and they're buffed up and ready to go.
Hey, one more quick question before I let you go.
Yes, sir.
What do you look forward to the most once they sound the all clear?
Okay, not the daily income coming in.
Right, not the daily income coming in. All of us miss that.
Just the fishing reports and the people calling and emailing. I'm bored silly right now. I've been bored the last 5 weeks. It's like my phone doesn't ring much outside of my granddaughter calling me, and I'm not getting a bunch of emails. They're kind of gotten out of that fast pace that I've been used to. It's got me a little bored.
It'll be back. I look forward to it. But
absolutely.
Let me tell you what they're saying in the future. We will not shake hands and we won't hug. You can go ahead and bury me now, okay? That ain't gonna cut it with me.
Yeah, I'm gonna shake hands if somebody puts their hand out, and I'm gonna embrace people if I want to, and I'll let God protect me against the coronavirus. I'm okay.
I'm with you. Thank you so much, Craigie. We appreciate it.
Pleasure.
This report is brought to you each and every week by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. By Tournament Master Chum, the best chum on earth. By Nosara Paradise Fishing, your dream vacation. And by Young Boats. You want the finest in flat spay and offshore hybrid boats? You want youngboats.com. I know fishing's been good up here in Northeast Florida. David Bory is chomping on the bit to give us a report. David, how we doing?
I'm doing fine, Captain Ricky. How are you today?
Kind of tired of sitting home, David, but other than that, I'm doing okay.
Well, I think a lot of people are. I mean, the days I've been out on the water, it's like a weekend every day out there. There's so many people on the water right now. It's unbelievable. It's almost scary. But, you know, the inshore scene, we've had that little cold water. I just mentioned it last week. We had a little cold water upwelling. Well, it's sort of still hanging around with us, although we did see the water temperatures come up to around 70, 71 degrees. But I can tell you a little secret. From the intercoastal going way back in the creeks, the water temperature can vary as much as 4 degrees. And your warm water right now is way back in the creeks, in the shallow water. And along the St. Johns River and the intercoastal, it's still cold. It's still cold water. But there's been quite a few, the pelagic showed up, jacks, ladyfish, Spanish mackerel. We're even getting a few of those inshore. But I got to do some flounder fishing this week, which has been really strong. It seems like it's sort of starting to taper off for me, though. But I tell you, fishing that last 2 hours of the outgoing tide, mud minnows or mullet, finger mullet on a 1/4 ounce jig, you hit the mouth of these creeks all up and down the intercoastal, and you're going to catch some nice flounder. Now, what I'm finding is that if you go to a creek, you make a lot of throws and you're not getting anything, move on, go find another creek. And then when you find that creek that's got flounder on it, stay there and try to catch a few, because we've been pulling, 5, 6, or 7 flounder out of a creek mouth.
That's a great tip, David. That's a great tip. What have you heard offshore?
It's been real sketchy because of these winds. I mean, these winds have been absolutely horrible lately. And then all of a sudden, Saturday morning, it looks like things laid down. Fast boats were able to get out, haul butt out there, and the mahi bite was on fire. If you got the boat that can do it, get out there fast, get your job done, and usually get back in pretty quick.
I got to tell you, I have built my whole fishing career around what I was taught when I was a kid, which was never trust a forecast with an N in it. When they're calling for northerly winds, you don't want to fish the Gulf Stream, because obviously the Gulf Stream's moving usually around 3 miles an hour to the north, and that going against the wind makes for a very, very rough ocean. And boy, I blew this one. I had the crew for Saturday. I had everything lined up, and I said, boys, I don't trust that north wind. We're not going. It was a big mistake. We ended up going later on in the day, and the only plus of this cold water is the sea bass came back. Steve Proctor and John Wilson and myself had no trouble getting our limit of sea bass on Saturday.
Wow, that's great. Now, when you say cold, what exactly are you seeing offshore? I mean,
Dave, now keep in mind,
shore, I should say.
Yeah, keep in mind that it rained real hard on Saturdays or on Friday, so that might have messed up the surface a little bit. But on Steve's machine, where on his boat, we had 67 degrees when we left the sea buoy, and it never got above 68 all the way up to about 30 miles offshore where we fished.
Wow, that's a little chilly there.
Yep, that's cold.
But hey, if the sea bass like it, there you go. But inshore, it's been tough with this cold water temperature. And I went back to the NOAA Weather Channel, and I went to the data buoy there out of Mayport, and started going back, and I found when this cold water came in, and it was, Rick, you should see it. It was in a matter of 8 hours, we went from water temperature of 74 degrees to 68 degrees.
Isn't that something?
8 hours.
Isn't that something?
Telling you what, you talk about something that'll shut fish down is quick water temperature change. And that's sort of what we've been seeing inshore. But your best bet is to go find the warm water, use your depth finder this time of year, especially right now, and try to find that warm water, and you're going to find some fish inshore.
David, you make a great point. And of course, the ocean never stopped changing, and we'll never figure out what made that water temperature drop that fast. That's not in our control. Hey, I got a quick question for you before you go.
Shoot.
If they come out tomorrow and signal the all clear, what's the first thing you can do? What do you miss most since we went into quarantine?
Oh man, I tell you what. I mean, I hope I book a charter. Is what I hope I do. But I mean, I don't know if that's going to happen. I mean, people say, "Well, what do you miss?" I said, "I miss my job. I miss working.
Yep.
I love my job. I got the best job in the world.
Yep.
Are you kidding?"
Yep.
And not to be able to do it, it's just been tough, Rick. It's really tough. And I miss the people. Meeting the people. I got a few local guys that have helped me out. And, we've gone, Rick, from doing 5 charters a week this time of year, and we're lucky now to do 1 a week.
Wow.
So
wow.
It's been tough on us. It's going to be real tough. I think on the whole industry, there's going to be some pressure felt. But for the charter captains of Florida, this has all been pretty much devastating for us.
You want your trips back. I don't blame you. I understand.
So in other words, there's really nothing I want to go do. I've been, I'm going out turkey hunting tomorrow. So, I'm doing what I want to do. I've been out scouting fish, but boy, I miss my clients, man. I miss them. You've always told me, Rick, fishing is not about going out there catching fish. A lot of it's about meeting new people and your interaction with your clients. And man, I miss that.
Yeah, I sure do too. I miss a lot of the people I've been fishing with. I should be down filming Best Boat 3 or 4 days a week now and catching sailfish the other days. So there's a lot that I miss, but I think more than anything, I really want to shake hands with somebody and hug them around the neck. I really do. I hate this. And I agree with the 6 feet apart. I absolutely agree we got to do it, but I sure do hate it. David, I appreciate it so much. Please tell me we can talk with you next week.
Absolutely, Rick, and tight lines, everybody.
Tight lines to you too, buddy. Thank you. Now, let's pull on down a little bit south. Dadgum Jim Ross has put up a fence again. A few cobia snuck through, so he pulled them all back, and now he's got them locked up. Jimmy, let my cobia go.
Never.
Sorry, dog.
I'll tell you, the guys out of the Ponce Inlet area are still getting quite a few of them on the days that they're able to get off shore, and they've moved out to some of the deeper wrecks. They haven't really been quite in on the beach as much as they were. The guys that are out there snapper fishing, trigger fishing, they're starting to get them back up again. And here's the other thing, Rick, that's going on all throughout the entire region right now is weak fish. And I don't know why the resurgence of weak fish, but for some reason, there are weak fish on our near shore wrecks. Those 30 to 55 foot rock piles and little wrecks and things. And they're nice weak fish. They're 15, 16, 18-inch weak fish. A little piece of fish bites or a little shrimp on a jig is really all it takes. And those things are, they're tasty. They're really tasty. So if you're looking for something to eat and the wind will lay down a little bit for you, those 2 species right there are pretty good ones to start with. But we've got lots of other stuff, Rick. The trout fishing in the lagoon system is turning back on again. I went Easter morning. We didn't go to sunrise service out at the beach. My church didn't have one. So Robin and I got on the boat and we did our own sunrise service in the Indian River. And right now, right around, especially all around the Titusville area, there's a lot of calorpa that's filled in. Not a lot of grass yet, but there's a lot of calorpa. And if you find the milling mullet, where they're just kind of flitting around, just kind of hanging out, you find those pods of mullet, you are going to find some trout around them. And they're nice trout. They're 15 to 22-inch trout. Now, here's the key to catch them, though. We all love topwater. I mean, you love topwater.
Sure.
I love topwater. Everybody loves topwater. But I was throwing skitter walks. I was throwing the small-size skitter walks. It was a little bit calm on Sunday morning, and so the bigger ones they were boiling at them, but they weren't striking them. So I said, okay, so a downsize. That seemed to work a little bit for about the first hour. And then all of a sudden, from about 7:45 or 8 o'clock until about 9:30, because we had an overcast, it became a situation where if you quote unquote, walked the dog with the lure, they would follow it, but they wouldn't hit it. Or they would swirl at it. You could see them kind of swirl. You'd see them make a pass at it. They wouldn't hit it. I started twitching it really hard, real sharp jerks, the same way that you would twitch a popper or a tugger. And I didn't have any. I typically carry some on the boat, but I didn't have any on the boat that particular morning. And that was the trick. I mean, they started skyrocketing. I had multiple fish skyrocket the bait. It was absolutely just one of the most impressive trout fishing aerial shows that I've seen in quite some time. And I'll tell you what, it was just absolutely a blast Easter morning.
So, in other words, the more aggressive you got, the more aggressive they got, huh?
Yes. but you couldn't move it very far. You had to work it aggressively, but in one spot, like
Right.
a dying or a flittering, mullet that was injured, but really couldn't run away from them. But it was just kind of flopping and splashing in one spot. And holy cow, they were crushing it.
Oh, that's cool. That's way cool. I tell you what, and we all do it. I know I do it. I know all fishermen do it. You get in a habit. If you go out one day and you're walking the dog and the fish are hitting it, the next day you're going to do the same thing. And it's going to take a while until you think, hey, wait a minute, what if I did this with this lure? What if I made it do this? I mean, I've had, you're talking about poppers. I've had fish that if you just bloop, that was it. Boom. And other days, if you don't half jerk the rod out of your hand, plopping it, they won't pay attention to it. So I don't know what the difference is. Yeah, I got no idea. For example, I went trolling 2 Saturdays ago now, I guess, and I'll bet I saw 30 mahi at different times, different fish come up and swim through my spread. Now I've rigged a ballyhoo before, Jimmy. This wasn't my first time. And
yeah, I was gonna say this. You've done it at least 3 or 4 times.
I've done a few ballyhoo in my life. Jimmy, I caught 2. I mean, that was it. And I know I saw 30.
You were window shopping.
Yeah.
Just window shopping.
Yeah. You'd look back at one time. I'd look back out of my tower, and there'd be 7 of them chasing baits. Chasing our baits, and maybe one would bite, but probably not. Hey, I got a question for you.
What's that?
What do you miss most since we've been in quarantine? What are you looking forward to getting back to?
Obviously, everyone wants to get back to work, and I miss seeing all of my regular spring breakers that come down. That you see their families over and over and over again, year after year, and you watch the kids grow through the process. Being here in the Central Florida area with all the theme parks and the beaches and the Space Center, this is a place where people bring their kids year after year after year, because a lot of times you can't see it all. If you try to go to Universal and Disney and Legoland and SeaWorld and Islands of Adventure, and all these Busch Gardens, you can't hit it all in a week. And so what they do is they'll come down one year and they'll hit 1 or 2 and then go fishing. And the next year they'll hit a couple more. I think that's probably the thing that I miss the most, is just this time of the year is a lot of out-of-towners, but they're like family. Because, in fact, we emailed and we texted back and forth saying, oh, we're going to miss you. We wanted to come down, but we can't now. So I think that's probably the thing that I'm going to miss the most.
Well said, my boy. Jim, we appreciate it as always. Please tell me we can check in with you next week.
I'm looking forward to it, Rick.
And when I go throw my skitter walk in the morning over my rocks, I'm going to jerk it just as hard as I can and let it sit there. Thank you, buddy.
All right, you take care.
Our thanks to Captain Jim Ross for a great East Central report. Jim, of course, is brought to you each and every week by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. By Tournament Master Chum, the best chum on earth. By Nosara Paradise Fishing, your dream vacation. And by Young Boats. You want the best in flats, bay, and offshore hybrid boats? You want to check out youngboats.com. All right, we're going to take another little trip. We're going to head down to Stuart, Florida, and find out what our boy John Earhart is doing. John, are you with us?
Yes, sir. Glad to be here.
Glad to hear from you, my boy. How you doing?
Not bad. Not doing as much fishing as I'd like, but the fishing's still been pretty good when we can get out in the ocean. And the river fishing's been pretty good, too. I'll start off with the inshore fishing. The snook fishing remains spectacular. A lot of people are catching keeper-sized snook right now, which is to be expected. Mostly live bait fishing. If you want to fish for them at night, you can use artificial with much better results. Flare hawk, diving plugs, even some topwaters on the calmer nights when you got some bait fish that are moving through the bridges on the surface at night. That's definitely a fun way to catch snook when they're right up on the surface feeding later in the evening hours. So if you haven't done that before, or you haven't got out to do it yet, March, April, May, June, July, those are great months to catch bigger snook, and they'll move closer to the surface when we get that spring and early summer mullet run that come through the bridges in the Stuart area.
What about offshore? Have you heard much on the sailfish or any mahi around?
The mahi fishing's been pretty good. It sounds like guys are catching them anywhere from 275 out to 400 foot right now. And it seems like a little north of Fort Pierce has been more action for some reason. I've seen a few guys catching some gaffers right out front of the St. Lucie Inlet. And again, that's 300 foot or deeper. So you get out a little bit deeper, find a nice weed line or a color change, and chances are you're going to find some good mahi.
Gotcha.
There's been a few sailfish inshore of that, but it seems like the sail fishing hasn't really picked up yet. I would think next month would be better sail fishing using live bait.
John, is the live bait available now? Are the Stuart live bait guys selling it, or are you catching it offshore?
A little bit of both. I mean, we've had 2 bait guys down at Sanford Park, so I mean, there's been plenty of bait available if you want to buy it. If you don't want to spend the extra money buying it right now, there's been plenty to catch just outside the inlet too. So I mean, I see guys catching greenies right off the beach. They're catching them out to like 60, 70 feet of water. Definitely want to have your transducer hooked up and make sure you're reading good bottom so you can tell where the greenies are if they're not right on the surface. Because sometimes they can be down 20 feet below the surface where you don't actually see them flipping on the top. So you definitely want to have your sonar on so you can mark them when you're driving around slowly, 2 to 5 mile an hour in an area where you would think they normally are. Or if you see birds kind of circling around a certain area off the beach, that's a pretty good indicator that there's going to be some bait fish around.
I've always believed if more fishermen learned to read the birds, they'd catch a lot more fish, and bait is certainly at the top of that list. You can determine where the bait is by watching the bird activity.
Yeah, so I mean, there's plenty of bait around right now. If you want to slow troll live baits for sailfish, blackfin tuna, and mahis, that's going to be a great idea. Otherwise, you can use them for cobia and bottom fish. A lot of snappers, some groupers, and some bigger amberjacks are being caught right now. So there's plenty of good action, whether you're a trolling fisherman or bottom fisherman. We got a lot of good action going on right now. So definitely take advantage. Just got to wait for this weather to calm down a little bit, and we're going to have some real good fishing here in Stuart.
Great report. John, thank you so much. Please tell me we can talk with you next week.
Yes, sir. I look forward to talking to you guys next week.
Captain John Earhart from the Mayhem and the Chaos in Stuart, Florida, keeping us dialed in on what's going on there. Hey, you want to know what's going on the ocean? Why don't we go out on the ocean right now and talk with our buddy Nick Stanzik from Bud and Mary's while he's running home on his charter. Nick, how are you?
We're doing pretty good. How are you?
Doing great, Bud. How was your day?
It was fun. I'm not on a charter today. We just went for fun with the family. My uncle's boat was catch 22. We heard the sails sailing yesterday. The main attraction, one of those boats, Marty Lewis, they caught 70 sailfish yesterday, which is, I think, a record in the U.S. for a single day.
Wow.
And we got in on the action today. We caught 18 sails itself, and some boats did even better than that today as well. So.
Wait a minute. Let me make sure I understood that now. Some boats did better than 70?
Not today, no. Yesterday, Marty Lewis got Marty. He had 70 sailfish releases, and we fished today, and quite a few boats did. We had 18 ourselves, but a few boats had more than 18 today. I think a few boats had 25 to 30. Really big numbers of fish coming through the lower keys right now. My family and friends getting in there on the action.
How good is that? 18 a day is a world-class day, my boy. Congratulations. That is fantastic. What else have you heard? I know that business is really tough for all of us, but I know it's been tough for the Florida Keys, but what else have you heard fish-wise?
I swordfished one day the last 2 weeks, and we did catch 2. We had a 222-pounder, so that was a good fish. And we let go a small one. We had a small blackfin. And then I fished out in the backcountry with my brother a few days and caught a big sawfish one day, which was really cool. I just put a video up on YouTube a couple days ago about that. And we had snook and then sheephead, trout, stuff like that.
Man, so what you're telling me is the minute we get the all clear, we need to head to Alamorada.
There's been some good fishing, and there ain't nobody down here, but I've been getting to spend some time with the family and fishing with myself as an angler, so I can't complain about that. But hopefully everyone stays safe and healthy to get everyone down here soon.
Nick, that is fantastic, and I appreciate it so much. I'm going to let you get back to getting yourself in your slip there, but 18 sailfish today. Nick, did you have that many flags?
We're on my uncle's boat today with Captain Scott, so I got to get to myself. He probably does. I've caught 18 one other time my whole life, so
okay.
Not my personal best, but cool with that.
That's fantastic, Cap. Congratulations, and we look forward to talking to you next week.
All right, thanks, Rick.
How good is that? Nick Stanzik checking in on his way home from his 18 sailfish day. Man, when we get the travel ban cleared and we can all go anywhere we want to, I am headed to Alamorada to catch me some sailfish. All right, let's run around the corner real quick and find out what's happening in 10,000 Islands from our boy Steve Dahl.
Hey, Rick. How you doing?
Steve, I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Hanging in.
Hey, buddy, how's your fishing going down there?
It's actually really good. Our tarpon bite just turned on, and our permit fishing's pretty good.
Ooh, cool. All right, so how are the guys catching tarpon?
It's mostly live bait. It's all blue crabs, but there's tons of the bait shops are so accommodating.
All right, so blue crabs are the hot ticket for tarpon right now?
Yeah, they are. It's 100% the deal. And the nice part right now is all the bait shops tend to have both sizes. I tend to like those a little bit smaller ones for the permit, but they have those kind of $half size and a little bit smaller for the tarpon. So it's good. It's really simple. It's just I'm using 60-pound fluoro as my leader, simple styrofoam float, and we're just kind of getting ahead of the pods of fish right now and intercepting them. We're hooking up with some regularity. Twice in the last, probably in the last week, we've had double-digit hookups. My buddy had 21 the other day, which is just unheard of. Typical landing percentage, we're landing, a third to a half of them, depending on what's happening. But as you and I have talked many times, let those big migratory fish jump twice and let them get off.
That's right. I got to thinking, when you said I use a 60-pound fluorocarbon leader, my first thought was, yeah, and I know why. They can chafe through that after about 30 minutes. That's fine.
We just said our water's been so darn clear this year. I think we've talked about it in past weeks, and they just probably won't even eat 80, to be honest with you. But, typically I'm using 80 pounds, but the water's just gin clear. And so the 60's holding up. They're not wearing through it nearly as I thought they would. It's been good.
So are these fish cruising the beach?
They are. They're right on the outsides of the island. Obviously Cape Romano, which is very tip and the most western part of the 10,000 islands, kind of the southern end of Marco Island. They're cruising around that point as well, pretty far out. Once they get to about Cape Romano, they kind of bend out a little bit, get about a half to about a mile offshore, and then they swing back in and head up towards Naples. And, they're all the way up to Sanibel at this point. But we're seeing droves and droves of fish. The nice part about the 10K is, we've got tons of little stop-off points on those outside islands, little bays, deeper passes. As these fish are migrating through, they've got little stopping points where they can get in, they can feed, they can rest, and then, keep the journey going. So if you're not seeing them on the outside, as fishing pressure increases, look for those fish to kind of push a little bit inside a little bit. And, just your first adjacent, shallow water bays, and you're going to find them.
Let me ask you something you just said that struck me. You talked about 50-cent piece crabs. And I thought you said those are the bigger size?
They are. And we don't use those big giant ones. They just don't seem to get the bite.
Huh.
And at least in our area, we tend to use a slightly smaller one. And those just seem to produce more bites. I mean, you can catch those, 100-pound plus migratory fish on those, no problem. And I like to think my hookup ratio is actually a little bit better. Whereas on a bigger crab, when they're going through that carapace, sometimes that circle hook can turn into itself on a bigger crab, whereas there's a less volume, if you will, in that hook gap on these smaller crabs. You can certainly catch them on those bigger ones, but I'm almost half the size of kind of maybe what the guys like in the Nick Stanzik region down in the Keys, like, down there, they want them, size of your hand.
Yeah, and, that's what I was saying. I shook out my crab trap this morning. I had 8 blue crabs in it, and I'll guarantee you each one of them was 7-8 inches wide anyway. I mean, they're,
yeah.
I'm not used to seeing $half size blue crabs. Past crabs.
Yeah, we see them a lot.
Not blue crab. That's crazy.
That's a good point. It might be a regional thing. We don't have a really good commercial blue crab fishery here. We certainly get some bigger ones, that's for sure. But when we're fishing, especially for tarpon and permit, we want them even a little bit smaller, to be honest with you, Rick.
Is most of your permit wreck fishing, Steve?
It is. As much as I say I wish we had inshore permit, the inshore ones down in the Keys or, over in Miami, that area, I love that style of fishing. But boy, man, permit are hard enough to catch without having, 2 feet of water or 2 feet of crystal clear water. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Sure, I do.
I consider us blessed that we have these fish on nearshore wrecks. And I had one thing to stress to people about pursuing the permit is do some digging about what wrecks have the highest relief, if you will. And relief means how far that wreck is off the bottom.
How high the
more
structure
vertical,
is. Mm-hmm.
You got it. The more vertical that is off the bottom, it's absolutely going to hold more permit. And when I say more, there could be 100 fish on those styles of wrecks. And our fishery for permit has gotten fantastic. I mean, there's 40-pound fish in the 10,000 islands and not too far from shore. So it's Yeah, there's some bruisers. It's a fancy jack, that's for sure. But it's there's some big ones there.
Perfect. Steve, it's all going to come back to normal. Your business is going to come back. I promise you, we just got to all get through this together. I look forward to talking with you next week. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be fishing.
All right, buddy. Look forward to talking to you next week. Steve Dahl letting us know that the tarpon and the permit in the 10,000 Islands are wide open. Now let's pull around the corner a little bit and check in with our buddy Greg Stamper. Greg, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic, Rick. How are you doing?
Good. Tell me about fishing in Southwest Florida.
All right, so I've had a lot of free time this week to fish with my wife.
Yep.
Let me tell you a couple things. The different part about fishing with your wife and yourself is that you're not worried about numbers. You're just trying to go out there and catch really quality fish and have fun, which has been a fantastic week for us. I'm out of a marina, so my boat's in the water, and we've had a lot of fun. So until about Friday or so this week, we had very low winds. Things have picked up, but the tarpon fishing has been ridiculous, on fire. And just so everybody knows, if you get a hold of some 2 to 3 inch crabs, doesn't matter if they're past crabs or mackerel crabs or swimmers, this bite's been ridiculous. Probably because there's so few people out there doing it. But this will all start up again in about a week, which will probably be about when this airs. When the wind dies down, it's going to happen again. Now, on the windy days, because we're bored to death, we've been running up some of our rivers. Now, I'm sure this is consistent throughout the area and all the rivers, but I've been running up the Caloosahatchee, for example, and I got to tell you, if you get some whitebait and you can run up the Caloosahatchee or the Broad River down south or the Imperial or wherever you're going to go out of, the snook fishing has just been ridiculous. You can basically go anywhere you want to, every creek, every canal, every entrance, all the way up from me, if we're talking about the Caloosahatchee River, to the Franklin Walk, has been just unbelievable. And here's one tip I can tell you right now, Rick. We've had very little rain. My bait has survived like champions way past where normally it would. So if you got nothing else to do, you get yourself some bait and you can run up the river. The further up the rivers we went, the better the snook bite was. And we're not talking about small fish, Rick. We're talking about 30, 40 inch fish.
Ooh, that is good fish for down in your area for sure. Goodness.
Yeah.
So right now your tarpon and your snook fishing is fantastic, and there's no customers.
Yeah, unfortunately. Hey, I can tell you one more report. I talked to one of my offshore guys, Sam Canota. He runs a big 42-foot cat and runs out there for snappers. He went out there because he was bored with his family. They absolutely crushed the mangrove snappers at night. I can't tell you how many times I said this, but he gets like 8 and 9 pound mangrove snappers, like it's not a big deal.
That's
and
good.
The flycat is yellowtail. He also told me though, his one good thing, just so anybody that wants to do it, the red grouper have moved into 70 to 80 feet.
Wow, that's close for down there. Yeah, that's real good. I want you to cherish every minute you get to fish with your wife. When I was young, my wife and I fished together at least twice a week, and I would quite often find myself complaining because she felt like she had to make an editorial comment on every decision that I made. I know you don't know anything about that, but
No.
Well, let me tell you something. She suffered a traumatic brain injury in the Bahamas 25 years ago, and man, do I miss fishing with that girl.
So my wife is a guide. She fishes freshwater. And I have to tell you, I just dropped her off about 30 minutes ago on a private pond that we're probably not supposed to fish on. And I'm driving around the neighborhood right now until she tells me it's time to pick her up.
I think that's fantastic. That's my kind of girl. How'd she end up with you?
Oh, I got lucky, man. I'm the lower end of this totem pole. Kind of like Charles Phillips. We both got lucky.
Me too. Now, Charlie Phillips got way lucky. And let me tell you something. My wife, when she was young, was determined to catch the world record amberjack on 10-pound test. She did not accomplish it, but she got a 70. And a 70 on 10-pound test is pretty daggum good.
70 pounds on
70.8.
Oh, Rick, I got nothing I can say about that.
That's something in it. Now, let me ask you one more question before I let you go. I got to know this. What do you miss most since before the virus?
You know what? I've got so many great people I fish year in, year out, same time frame. And I kind of miss just hanging out with my normal peeps. I mean, the pickups, the last calls and all that's really good. But to be quietly honest, I got so many people I fished for so many years. I just miss, like, being in the water with them. You know, it doesn't even matter if the fishing's good, if it's unbelievable, if it's just not happening. I just miss that.
Yeah. And I think, they talk about we're never going to go back to shaking hands and hugging everybody we see. It's going to be hard for me, boy. I'm going to tell you.
I got to tell you right now, my people, when we catch that prize or that one fish they've been trying for, there's going to be a hug.
I'm with you, Captain Greg Stamper. I am with you. Buddy, thanks so much for a great report. You better go back and get her because somebody might steal her in that neighborhood if you're not careful.
Well, I texted her just a minute ago. She says everything's fine and she's catching bass at the same time.
I want to go with her.
Yeah, I know. This is my life, Rick. What do you want me to tell you?
Jeez.
Right. Hey, love you, buddy. I hope we all get back to normal soon.
Hey, we will, and I will be down to go fishing with Greg Stamper. Thank you, buddy.
You got it.
What a great report. Has to drop his wife off in the closed neighborhood pond so she can sneak in there and fish. That ain't bad. All right, I'm not sure who my dream girl is, but that ain't bad. I certainly hope his wife doesn't get thrown in jail for fishing in a private pond. Now let's move up the West Coast a little bit and talk with our buddy Ray Markham. Ray, are you with us?
Yes, sir. I hope that doesn't spread. I'm in all private ponds around here.
I know it. I think there's been a little bit of sneaking into private ponds since a lot of guys have had too much time on their hands lately.
Yeah, that may be the case. But you know something? There may be some things in the works that might change things a little bit. As of today, Manatee County is reopening their boat ramps.
Ta-da! Good deal.
Now, this morning, Pinellas County Commission was meeting and discussing reopening the Pinellas County beaches after Friday. They have another meeting on Thursday that they'll be discussing that to see it. Well, they've got other people they want to talk to about it, law enforcement, to see how things will be as far as patrolling and policing, all that. So that's another positive if it happens. But, still people have to maintain their distance from each other and take care of the things that we've been doing now for the last month. Another good sign is several guys I spoke to that did a little bit offshore fishing this week ran out to about 80 feet of water prior to all this wind coming in on Sunday and just cleaned house on big mangrove snappers, dropping down cut bait and live bait and pulling up fish between 7 and 8 pounds. But the big secret for those guys that were doing it, they could see a big show of fish on the bottom in 80 feet. They took chum blocks. Our good friends from Aylesworth Fish and Bait Company over here in St. Petersburg loaded them up. They went out and they dropped those chum blocks down halfway. Shook them a few times real hard, and then they could see a cloud of fish come up off of the bottom and into that chum. And they sat there for a half hour and wore those fish out.
How about that?
If you think 80 feet too deep, think 40 feet. That's where you're actually going to be fishing while you're in 80 feet of water if you do what these guys did. And I think that's been kind of a long-standing thing a lot of guys have done in the past, and it's really no big secret, but it definitely does work. If you're going to go offshore, pretty much anywhere, chumming does work. So
It certainly does, Ray. Our problem here, and we used to do it quite a bit, we would put our chum bag on a downrigger and drop it down, 30, 40 feet.
Sure, you can control it easier.
Yeah, your problem is don't use too big a line to tie it to the downrigger ball because we've had increasing numbers of Goliath grouper and sharks grabbing that chum bag.
Yes, sir. We have more of an issue with sharks because we're starting to see tarpon showing up. And typically with the migration of tarpon, those giant herring, sharks are not too far behind.
They like to eat them.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's herring. It's just a giant herring, and we get an influx of bull sharks that are pretty scary. So that and also those big hammerheads. So
how about your inshore?
Inshore's doing pretty good. We've seen quite a few people not on the water since Sunday, only because of the wind going on here. And yesterday and today, I mean, it blew the hinges off. It was 30-plus miles an hour, and we're expecting it to be pretty bumpy and rough for the next probably few days, at least until probably Thursday. But the guys that are getting out and doing a little bit of wave fishing and getting out in places where they can find some nice trout, they've been doing real well with trout. Topwater mirror lures early in the morning have been a really good bet for guys out chucking lures.
That's really good, and that's something that, unfortunately, it seems like so many people now have got time because their jobs are on hold, and that's a fantastic way to quarantine. Go get yourself on a flat by yourself and throw a surface lure around, and I promise it'll make you feel better whether you get a bite or not.
Well, I definitely know it'll make you feel better when you do.
Well, that's true, too. Hey, Ray, thanks so much for a great report. We look forward to talking with you next week, okay?
All right, buddy. We'll catch you later.
Captain Ray Markham checking in with a great West Central report for us, where he said the tarpon have shown up and they brought the sharks right along with them, but it hadn't slowed up the mangrove snapper fishing a bit. Hey, remember, Ray and all of our action spotters are brought to you each and every week by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. By Tournament Master Chum, the best chum on earth. By Nosara Paradise Fishing, your dream vacation. And by Young Boats. You want the best in flats, bay, and offshore hybrids? You want youngboats.com.
You know what Yamaha Outboards love? The genuine formula and consistency of Yamalu marine engine oils. Outboards are subjected to punishing conditions like high loads, salt, and humidity, a mix that automotive oils can't handle. Yamalu full synthetic and marine performance formulas are certified to protect against friction and corrosion for reliable performance every time. Find Yamalu marine oils at your nearest Yamaha Outboard dealer. Locate them at yamahaoutboards.com/dealers. Yamaha. Reliability starts here.
Hey, Raj, being consistent is the mark of a quality product. If you've been Florida's #1 chum for over 10 years, there's got to be a reason.
For 10 years, Tournament Master Chum has lived up to its name. That's why more tournament pros insist on Tournament Master than any other chum. It's the only chum with Menhaden milk mixed right in. That means it gets the scent out faster and deeper than any other brand of chum. It comes in a grind size for every species from kingfish to catching bait. Your fishing time is way too precious to you second-rate chum. Bring the action to you by insisting on Tournament Master Chum. It's worth every penny.
When you're ready for the finest in custom-made flat spay or inshore offshore hybrids, you are ready to meet the Young family in Inglis, Florida. For over 21 years, the Young family has built custom boats one at a time for every type of fishing. Nothing can sneak up on a flat quite like the Gulf Shore flats boats, and I've never fished a better hybrid than the Young 24s and 27s. Rob Young is a naval architect who takes tremendous pride in each and every build for each and every customer that wants their boat custom built exactly the way they want it. Is it time for you to move up? Are you ready to own the finest boat built? Then you need to visit the Young Boat facility in Inglis, Florida, or check them out online at youngboats.com. Our thanks to Captain Ray Markham for a great West Central report. Now let's pull into Homosassa and check in with the mayor himself, the master of the Big Bend, Captain William Toney. William, are you with us?
Yep, right here downtown Homosassa. We used to be quiet, but it's real quiet now.
You only thought you were quiet.
Yeah, man.
Whew. Boy, I tell you, this has been something, hasn't it?
It absolutely has. But, we're still open to fish in most of our Big Bend areas. So, if you want to get out and do some, the fishing has been wonderful.
What are you catching?
Well, right now, I tell you what, everything inshore has been very good. Our trout, our redfish, and our snook, the West Coast Slam, is pretty easily attainable. Our snook season, it's going to end here at the end of the month. And it doesn't take a keeper to make the slam. So the trout and redfish are generally the easier ones, but sometimes the snook's been the easier one, and getting that nice trout or redfish to finish it off has been the problem. And also, on our offshore side, we're getting a few good cobia pushing through. Some nice mangrove snappers offshore in about 18 to 25 feet, and, catch and release gags that just happen to get in the way while you're out there targeting them.
Does it seem to you, William, like your gag fishing is getting better this year?
It always seems that our area here, we have a great fishery. And I know the size limit at 24 inches, that's a big one. And inshore,
when it was down to the 18 or 20-inch fish, it was no problem getting keepers in 6 to 10 foot of water. Now getting up to that 24-inch mark, you have to get a little bit more savvy, have better numbers than the other guy. But once you get out in that 30-foot range, it seems that most of our offshore anglers are getting their keeper grouper without a problem.
Good, because we're starting to see them ever so slowly filter back into Northeast Florida. We've had a total absence of them for a while now, but I was out jigging sea bass Saturday, yeah, and had a good one, and I was mighty glad to see him. I'm not at all rejecting the idea of letting that fish go, because unlike red snapper, we really do have a population problem with gag grouper, and we need to get more of them. But I just like checking in with other areas and seeing how they're doing with them. What else is going on out there?
The inshore bite, I'll go back to that. Some tip I was going to give all our inshore anglers, and our bread and butter fish here on the Big Bend is predominantly sea trout, and our new regs on those have really helped the population out. In fact, the day before yesterday, I had a problem. We got on a spot, and we got to keep 2 trout out of about 8, and all of them were over the 19-inch mark, and we released them. It was great, and it was real windy, and you could see these fish coming up from 4-foot water off this submerged rock pile on the surface and just slurping it in. You know how that trout makes that big pop slurp when they take something near the surface?
Sure.
That's what was going on, and it was really cool. It used to, when I was a younger man, it used to be like, oh, man, I wanted to show off at the cleaning table. But, when you take a 23, 24-inch trout and get a good picture of it, or don't even touch it, just bring it up to the edge of the boat and reach over your pliers and just let that hook out of its mouth and watch it swim off. That's something I thought I'd never get to see in my life, as much as we target trout. But I think the good times for us on trout fishing are ahead of us.
I like your attitude. I really do. And I couldn't agree with you more. And golly, the fish we used to kill for absolutely no reason. First off, everybody knows a 15-inch trout tastes better than a 25-inch trout. And,
absolutely.
And as my old friend George Labonte always says, I love him as much as I always have. I'm just not mad at him anymore. And that's
I know what he's saying. Yep.
That's kind of how I feel. I'm more in love with him now than I was when I was a kid. And I'm sitting there and I've got my boga grip and I've got it on the mouth of that 23-inch trout, and I'm getting those hooks out going, okay, hold still. Okay, baby, you okay? Hold on. Let me get that one.
Yeah.
Let me get that one. Okay. All right. Oh, you're swimming good. Okay, goodbye. It's just
cool. That's a good thing, and I think a lot of our Florida anglers are starting to turn that direction, which I feel is a good thing. And sustainability here on our coast on the Gulf side, and then of course on the east side, is what we need for our tourism and for our local anglers to go out and have a good quality fish. They catch it almost every trip, and that's what I look at. And you can catch a lot of fish. There's other states around the Gulf and up the eastern seaboard where they have a little bit looser regulations. But when you come in our state and you catch a really nice kind of a trophy fish every time you go out, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I try so hard to tell my buddies in Louisiana that they're going to rue the day that they had these 25 trout limits and all. And I want Louisiana to get smart and preserve that fabulous fishery they have over there. There's no doubt. Yep. I'm glad Florida finally did. I think, looking back on it real quickly, I think, William, that Texas really led the way, don't you?
Yeah, it seems to be. It's kind of far away. I look at it across the Gulf every day and know I ain't got enough gas to run over there, but I always think about, they have some really huge trout, that Matagorda area and things. I've never gotten to fish there, but I've seen the pictures of the fish they bring in and wade fishing. It just seems to me that, man, that's such a cool place, and they got it going on.
It does, and I think they led the way. I know they certainly got tight on trout and redfish before Florida ever did on their limits, and now it's paying off for them. That's a good thing. Hey, William, that's a great report, and as always, we so appreciate it. Please tell me we can talk with you next week.
I'll be here.
All right, buddy. You take care of Homosassa until we get there, okay?
All right. Thanks, Rick.
Thanks,
Have
William.
a great weekend, bud.
Take care, bud. Now, let's head on out to Gulf Breeze. God, I love Gulf Breeze. It's one of my favorite places in Florida. And check in with Captain Tyler Massey. Tyler, are you with us?
I'm here, Rick.
Good deal, buddy. What's going on in Gulf Breeze?
So, over this way, we didn't do any, I didn't do any offshore fishing last week, but the inshore fishing was good. We caught some redfish in the Sound, in Santa Rosa Sound one day. That was all on live shrimp, just fishing around boat docks. So that was a good trip. And then also the speckled trout fishing is picking up over here as well. We've seen some, warmer weather, some warmer water temps, some bait moving around. So, anywhere in Pensacola Bay, Santa Rosa Sound, the speckled trout bite is going to get, better and better each week.
Oh, that's outstanding. Now, as the water warms, have the cobia shown up there yet, or have they been through there, or what's going on with them?
Yeah, guys looking for cobia are picking off a few here and there. No great reports where people are seeing 10 or 12 fish a day and all that, but a lot of ones and twos and catching a couple. So, yeah, it's definitely worth giving it a shot, and we can only hope that it'll get a little better, but we haven't had that great of fishing in the last 5 or 6 years in general. But, there's definitely some swimming by on the beach for sure.
Yeah, gosh, I got to do it back in the glory days over there, and I sure would love to see that return. That was a great fishery.
Oh, yeah. It definitely was. When I was a kid, it's kind of the last time it was really great. But, yeah, the hardcore fishermen are still out there, and they're still chasing them. Once you do it a few times, it's hard to not want to go fight fishing on the beach.
That gorgeous emerald water you've got over there, you can see them a mile away. It's a blast. You heard anything else from offshore?
Just the bottom fishing's been okay. It was last weekend. Fishing opened up April 1st, so people are hitting some deeper, 220 to 280 foot bottom spots for scamp, mixed in with some vermilion snappers. Plus, our trigger fishing is good. We got a couple more weeks of trigger fishing in on May the 1st.
I see. So your trigger fish fishing, which is a one fish per person, closes again in May. Is that right?
Yep, it's going to close again on the 1st of May, or I guess the last day of April.
Tyler, that doesn't make any sense to me. It just doesn't.
I don't make the rules. We just follow them.
Yeah, I know it. I hate to think that the same people that make our red snapper and triggerfish rules are in charge of the rest of the government, but I'm afraid they are.
Oh yeah, that's what we deal with. But
all right, buddy. Look, hey, we really appreciate the report, Tyler. Make sure we can check in with you next week. Is that okay? Good
we'll
deal.
Be here, yep.
All right. Thanks so much, Captain Tyler Massey. And you know what? It's been a busy week around Florida in different ways. If you think about it, we haven't had the tourists. The tourists are gone. Everything's different for our world. The virus is here, and we're going to have to deal with it. It will go back to normal again, but not real soon. But it's been fun to listen to guys talking about fishing with their families, fishing with their wives, fishing for themselves. And certainly the fishing was good all week. The weather was kind of rough, but you know what? It is what it is. It's part of April in Florida. We're going to stay in touch with everybody so we can keep you in tune as to where the fish are. And don't forget now, go to your favorite podcast provider and subscribe to the Florida Sportsman Action Spotter podcast. It certainly would mean a lot to us. Hey, don't forget, Action Spotter podcast is brought to you each and every week by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. By Tournament Master Chum, the best chum on earth. By Nosara Paradise Fishing, your dream vacation. And by Young Boats. You want the best in flats, bay, and offshore hybrid boats? You want youngboats.com. I'm Captain Rick Riles saying thank you so much for listening, and we'll be back in a week with another Florida Sportsman Action Spotter podcast. So long.